And I find that really what feels like success and sounds like success to a woman is being at peace with who she is.
You're listening to the No Labels, No Limits podcast with best-selling author Sarah Box. We focus on the mantra, no labels, no limits, no excuses. And now without further ado, please welcome your commanding coach with plenty of chutzpah and heart, Sarah Box.
Welcome to the No Labels, No Limits podcast, a show dedicated to breaking down the boundaries of what's possible. And I am your host, Sarah Box. Today, we're joined by another Sarah Moore, a master life coach who empowers women to embrace their full potential. That's a big deal, being a master life coach. She has a rich background in supporting high achievers. She brings a wealth of knowledge on how to navigate professional and personal challenges with grace and confidence. She has over 14 years of experiences and 4,000 plus hours coaching. That's a lot of hours coaching and helping people. She specializes in turning self-doubt into self-assurance, helping women celebrate their strengths and own their narratives. So when asked what folks might be surprised to learn about her, she shared that I am on my own recovery journey and part of a 12-step program. So this candid revelation highlights her own resilience and her dedication to personal growth, which undoubtedly influences her professional life as a master life coach. So with that as a very brief introduction, let's formally welcome Sarah Moore to the podcast. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you. Thank you for that lovely introduction.
Well, there's so many directions we could go. So I'm going to start kind of at a basic place, I think. And you spoke openly about your recovery journey and its role in your personal and professional life. So can you share with us how this experience influenced your coaching philosophy?
Gosh, that's a big question. Yeah, I'm a member of a 12-step program called Al-Anon Family Groups, and that stems from growing up in an alcoholic home and also falling in love with an alcoholic in recovery, which was a miracle. And I believe that I was attracted to my husband because of the serenity that he possessed. He was already on a self-growth journey, which I wanted, but I didn't know how to go after. I didn't know how to put it into action. And so I started attending meetings in my mid to late 20s. And I believe that that really opened the door for me to be able to notice coaching when it came into my purview, because I was working for a company and I'd never even heard the term life coach. But the moment I saw it and I read what it was, I thought, this is the thing I've been wanting to do since I was 14. I remember being at a parent-teacher night saying I'd love to get paid to have intimate conversations. But I knew it wasn't psychology, I knew it wasn't counseling, and I didn't know what the alternative was. So because I'd had some self-reflection through the space of 12-step, I think I was able to latch on to what this could be for me, and it made that transition much quicker. And I actually forget, Sarah, how you framed the question to me initially.
Well, how did that experience influence your coaching philosophy? I mean, that's such a powerful entree, right? First of all, it's a context for which you talked about meeting your husband and being drawn to his serenity, right? So I would say he's further down his path on recovery in the sense of knowing what that is at that point, right? But that is just something when we haven't had it growing up and there's chaos and confusion and all of that, whether it's us or someone else around us. That's a big draw to be to someone who's like not like pulled in a million directions. So I was really wondering, okay, now how do you bring that into your coaching work?
Yeah, I can answer that. Thank you for re-asking it me. The work I'm doing today is the same work I was doing when I entered that program at 26 years of age. It's supporting women, which starts with supporting myself around who am I? What do I actually want? How do I write my own rules instead of buying into these rules that may or may not work for me? How do I ditch the chaos and confusion, which more often than not is coming from the inside out? I had a coach a while back who was absolutely fabulous. And one day she said to me, Sarah, you are creating your own problems. These aren't problems that live outside of you in the way that you think you do. So maybe it's time to come up with some better problems. After I took a deep breath and felt a little indignant, I laughed so hard. And I can't tell you how that's translated in the many coaching sessions I've led since to, hey, this actually isn't real. It's just something you're making up because you're used to chaos and confusion to some degree, even in the midst of all of the success and the things that look good. So how do we help unwind some of that and help you take responsibility for more of the daily experience you want?
What a great question to be asked in the midst of wanting, like, I just want this fixed, right? And they say, this isn't really an outside world problem. This is inside of you. And often that's the case. We make up something different than is actually existing. So when you're working with your clients, I mean, I can laugh along with you because I've been asked similar questions where you're just kind of dumbstruck and you go, yeah, I guess so. Can I get back to you on that? I'm not going to defend a point that's stupid to defend. It's like, is this real? No. So then there's work that comes after that. But so, now I just got distracted a little bit. So when you think about that and that experience for you, and then I'm imagining then that you have some similar conversations with your clients about what's real and what's not. But you talked about also getting to know what you want, what you want to experience. I think that's one of the toughest. I just think it's a big question. Like when someone says, what do you want? And I always want more definition. Like, could you make it a little, because that's a universal question. And I make it harder than it needs to be. So how do you help people figure out like what they want, especially if they've been distracted by what other people think they should be doing or what they're good at and could do more of, all of the not necessarily things that individual wants?
What I find to be true with the women that I work with, and it's true for me too, is that we're really busy focusing on making other people happy, right? We're trying to look good. And the antidote to that is, what do I think? Not what do you think, but what do I think about this idea that I have to share? What do I think about wanting to do X? What do I think about the way I feel in this outfit? And so that's a framework that we talk about a lot. And it's such a sneaky one, not even realizing that we're hyper-focused on what other people will think and trying to please them. So that question of what do I think becomes a baked in part of the vocabulary and the exchange in our coaching space. So that's number one. Number two, I love to do values work. I think in coaching, it can often be done quite superficially, which for me is, here's a list of values, choose the ones that resonate. And I was lucky a long time ago that a mentor of mine developed this fabulous exercise and gifted it to me when she retired. And so the exercise is so in depth and so intimate that my clients get to know so much about who they are and who they're surrounding themselves with, what their fears are, what their desires are, what they admire in other people, which are often a reflection of what do I want more of myself. And then the pinnacle of that work being that you come out with one or two core values, no more than that. And those values being a tool in your toolbox for making decisions, especially in the face of uncertainty, and coming up with very specific definitions of what those values mean to them, not just generalized words that we think we know the meaning to or the meaning of. And so that's a part of the approach. And I'll also add that in these 14 years, coming up on 15, in these 4,000 hours and countless more spent on myself and doing my own work, I have never asked a woman, high achieving women, doing really interesting thing in the world, by all means could be described as successful in many ways. I have never asked a client, what is your definition of success? And they've had a clear answer. It's not happened once. So we often are weaving that question in. Well, what does success look like to you? What does it actually mean? And I do a lot of work around emotions. I think understanding our emotions are really important, because that's the place that we get to be able to stay in vulnerability, right? Stay in the uncertainty, stay true to who we are when we feel squeezed, rather than trying to outrun the feeling or behave in ways that are inconsistent with who we want to be. And I've found more often than not that when we think of a list of emotions, we've got joy and freedom and love at the top. At the bottom of the scale, we've got depression and powerlessness and grief and rage. But about number 7 on the scale is peace and contentment. And I find that really what feels like success and sounds like success to a woman is being at peace with who she is. And there's often some version of that becomes their answer to how they define success. And it's so overlooked, right? We're out there making all of these big goals, which are awesome. There's a place for that. And we overlook, what does it mean for me in any given moment, in any given day, to feel at peace with who I am and to just feel good, right? So simple, but some of these pieces are how we're getting to that sense of what I want can look like.
Boy, I just saw a movie. I would tell you, like, my husband and I are watching it, and he's going, this is dark. I said, it's dysfunctional. Like, it's crazy dysfunctional from the get-go. And I said, and it's a little bit triggering. And come on, you guys. So anyway, but at the end of it, the point, and I'm not going to say the name in case anybody wants to see it and doesn't want to have a way it's going to end. But there's all these trials and tribulations and chaos that emerges, and people run into the rescue. But at the end of it, there's a conversation about, why do people tell me I need to be more than who I'm happy being? This is what I'm happy being, right? So for me, it was worth the wait. It was worth waiting through the pain to at least go, there's got to be something redeeming. Otherwise, I have to go watch something more uplifting. And at that point, it might have been a terrible news day, right? That would have been a step up. But the message was good, and they had really good actors in it, so that helped. But it is exactly what you're saying. Like, she's going through all this turmoil and people telling her she should be different, but at the end of it, she doesn't need to be any. She goes, I don't want to be all these things people think I should be, could be, ought to be. I just kind of I like this.
Yeah.
I like feeling good about this, not feeling like, well, I should be more.
Yeah. And I'm often playing the role of the permission giver. Yeah, if that feels good, heck yeah. How do we get more of that? I mean, obviously, I'm going to point things out if they seem off base or if they seem driven by fear. If it feels pure, if it sounds aligned with who I know you to be, just that voice of yes, yes, of encouragement, of permission is sometimes all we need, right? Obviously, there are other pieces along the way, but
Sure.
that can go a long way.
It can. But I'm curious, like, here we are, and you're running a business, you're helping people, you've done all of your own accomplishments, gone through over your hurdles and stuff, and yet we need permission. And I'm not sure what it is about us as women, or maybe it's more than women, but I don't find a lot of guys asking me for permission. They're like, yeah, this is, I've had people say, I'm just kind of a jerk. I'm going, thanks for the heads up. But also, but not like, I want permission from you to feel okay about that type of thing. But there's been some really, like, you get having good conversations with women beyond the surface level stuff, and you can say, yeah, I feel like I should be more. I should be able to be more there for other people and all of this, even though I'm outwardly, right, very successful. So you just saying, how do we get more of that, is just like, it's a door blown open.
Yeah. I mean, even you saying it, as I think about taking it on for myself in the moments where I need permission, it feels like a breath of fresh air.
It does. I think we should go around patting each other. Like when you were a little kid and you wanted to do something that was scary, there was always some other kid there who was a little scared too, and they wanted you to go first. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. But there's a little bit of that in there, like, okay, well, even if it doesn't work out, you're there. You saw it happen, right? So maybe you'll help me stand up. But I do think it's those subtle things. You can take a nap. You can take a break. You don't have to answer your phone. It's just, and some of that stuff, people go, duh, and you're thinking, those are big deal things sometimes.
Really big deal. I often say the tiniest of moments are the most important ones because we live our life in the tiniest of moments. Just as you said, deciding to take a nap or not, deciding to respond to the email or not, having the difficult conversation, the big things, the big life events, they're so much more fleeting. And so if we build the muscle of learning how to say yes and no to the little things in ways that are aligned, that's going to prepare us for those bigger moments. So couldn't agree more.
Do you think that when we practice that, Sarah, our muscle memory, if you will, on like, no is a good thing to say, or not now is a good thing, without feeling like, okay, now I have to make sure they feel okay about that?
Yeah, I think that muscle memory builds. I think it's an important piece of the puzzle. And I think also a distinction there is we can still have the self-doubt. It's just, do we give it energy? Do we give it attention? And what I find over time is the self-doubt, even though it's there, it just becomes less and less important because we've built the memory, the muscle memory of knowing how to deal with it and put it in its right place. I often talk about, I'm in the business of solving problems as a business owner, but what are the right problems to solve? Well, if I find myself saying no, and then I go, oh no, but are they still going to like me? Are they still going to do business with me? I've got enough experience to know that isn't a problem that needs solving. That's just an example of a thought that comes into my mind, which I don't have total control over. And I know that my no is a good no. Like I've got enough.
It aligns with you.
Hey, that's right. Like I've got enough experience of doing this just enough times to go, yeah, I'm sure about the no, even though it feels a bit edgy, still can feel a bit uncomfortable. But what if that discomfort is evidence that I'm doing something right, not something wrong? Where in the early years of my journey, where I was still building muscle memory, that voice was a lot louder. And I thought it was evidence that I was doing something wrong. Like, oh, surely I'd just feel whoop-de-doo about my no. No, that was just naivety. It wasn't enough experience yet. And then, simultaneously learning to not pay attention to the things that just don't need my attention.
How do you know the difference between those? Like, the little things that you go, you don't need my attention, and you're thinking, oh, I can get back to you. How do you distinguish between which is real and which is a phantom?
It's a really good question. If I'm not thinking, let me say that another way. If there's no circling the perimeter, if there's no, oh, what about this, or what about that, or I don't really know. If there's not a lot of overthinking going on, and I have this feeling that, yeah, this is what is right for me, which is backed by there isn't much overthinking. I'm quite clear. I don't need to ask a bunch of questions. I don't need to sit and think about it anymore. Then I know I need to take action. But if it doesn't feel clear, if I don't feel clear, if I really don't feel sure, but it's more than self-doubt, right? Then that's my signal to sit and be quiet. It's quite a hard thing to put words to because I find it to be a feeling in my body that I've become familiar with than an intellectual process.
Nice. That was exactly where I wanted you to go.
Great.
Because I wanted to get your expertise on how we can key, and you've talked about emotions, but also how can we key into what our body is telling us about certain situations, right? Because they're like you're describing, there's some things, there's no ambiguity. It's like you feel it, you know it for a fact, and you can decide in the moment. It's like no or yes, whichever. But there's no ambivalence versus not knowing, like not being able to double check your thinking with how does it feel in me.
Yeah, I talk a lot about this. I developed this experience called a pump up session, and it's like a coaching session. I'm not sure I've ever said it this way before. It's like taking a coaching session, which is traditionally words backwards and forwards, and it's making it into an embodied practice. So we dance and yell, and we still talk, and we breathe, and we use music to move us, because emotions live in the cells of our body. They don't live in our head. And so one of the best ways to change our state is to move our body, because then those cells get some friction, some movement inside of them. And so I'm often talking to women, and I'm practicing it myself. How do I get out of my head and into my body? We talk about this humming, right? It sort of stimulates the vagus nerve, and it stimulates something new in your body. Singing, movement of any kind, throwing on a song and dancing around the kitchen. These are things that sound fun and playful, and they certainly can be, but there's actually so much more that's going on. So in a session where I can see a client is stuck on a thought, even with me coming at it with different angles, let's get up. Let's get up. Let's do some jumping jacks. Let's punch our hands in the air. Let's stretch. What's your favorite song? And just, it disrupts that habit of circling the edge, of obsessing over the thought, which it's just a grasp at certainty. If I can understand this, if I can dial it in, then I can be sure. But we have to take the action to then feel sure, right? The action is then the feeling follows the action. And so it's counterintuitive in a lot of ways, but women could stand to do a lot more to get out of our head, because the answers don't live here nearly as much as we think they do.
Yeah, that's something I've come to later in my life, because I'm really like, my first thought is, okay, what do I need to know about this? And I even listen to my language. How do I think about how I'm feeling? I'm thinking, should not be able to tell you how I'm feeling, but I do have to check in with my body and go, well, where am I feeling anything? Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, here's where I'm feeling okay, or I've learned to really trust what's come in. But it's not automatic, but just like you're saying, getting out and moving, or like you're really tired and something's going on and just go, okay, I just need to pull energy in, and do some movements. And working with groups, you can feel the energy just solidify, and making people get up and do goofy things, and then they start laughing, and then it breaks. You're just not in a locked headspace going around and around and around, chasing your tail.
Yeah. I might be similar in that my first port of call is to think I can think my way out of the problem. And it just makes it so much worse. That's that example of I'm overthinking, I'm overdoing the whole process. And I've learned, and of course still learning, that when it feels hard, I'm off base.
That's when you need to take a break, right?
Yeah. Maybe that's a better answer to your previous question, is how do I know if it's right? How do I know if it's the right yes versus I need to sit back and wait? If it's feeling hard, forget about it.
Yeah. I have to ask myself that too. Or when I'm working with a client or on a project that's hard for me, it's a challenge. It's not necessarily a hard project. It's like I have to really think differently. And I go, okay, I need to think. I'm thinking, you need a nap. You need a break. Before you go to sleep tonight, you need to ask a question and just go to bed. It'll be there in the morning, right? But it's stopping the incessant query, And so for me, I know, like, when people say, well, why is it this way? Why is it this way? And I know for myself, it's like, well, even if you know why it's that way, it won't change it being that way. So, because it's outside your control. So let's ask a different question. So, like, why am I having trouble with this? Well, because I'm trying to do too much and too small type of thing. But so it's like it's too hard of a feeling. And to your point, when you know that you're not having that experience in your head, you can feel it's a right move.
That's right.
So, you talk about us as women owning our own strengths and narratives. Can you dive into that a little bit more, like distinguish between narratives and strengths, and how you help us get more clear on what our own ones are?
Yeah, narratives. What are the stories I tell about myself? What are the stories I believe to be true? There's this wonderful exercise that I did for myself, and of course now do with clients. And it's, what's the most common personal lie that we believe to be true about ourselves? And for me, it's there's something wrong with me. And once I had the language for that, it popped up everywhere. I was in a difficult conversation a few days ago with somebody that I'm partnering with in my business. And when the conversation got difficult, boom, right in my mind pops, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me that this is so hard? It's got nothing to do with me. That's just an old, outdated way of playing the victim, of being the martyr, something I didn't even know I was doing to the degree that I was doing it. And again, when I feel stressed, when I feel squeezed, which is true for any of us, do we have the skills, the emotional resilience to be in integrity with who we are? And so it was so interesting to notice that story pop in and then go, oh, no, that's not what this is. This has got nothing to do with me and how wrong I might be because I'm having a hard time dealing with the conversation. This is just hard. It's a hard thing. That's a fact. And so very quickly was able to take myself out of it. So I think looking at some of those stories that are born out of fear, not enoughness, and putting some structure around them, language around them that makes them really easy to identify, is a foundational step in the coaching process, and then creating the new story. And it's just as simple as, what if this isn't working? What's an ideal version? Who cares if it's true or not? Who cares if right now it's aspirational? And also, let's look for evidence of where it's already playing out, because it's never this or that. It's always and. Both things can be true. And then strengths. I think, so I do this exercise. I'll share it this way, around bragging. Have women do this, whether I'm doing a live event, speaking from the stage, or just in a session. I'll have a woman stand up. There's something vulnerable about standing up and claiming that space, which gives another tinge, another level to it. And I say, I want you to brag. Brag about what you like about yourself. Bragging has such a negative connotation. It's being arrogant, being conceited, don't be too big for your britches. Well, it's really important that we know what we are good at, what we bring to the table, and we're able to own that story. I wrote a book called Full of Herself, and that's my definition. We've got to own our whole story, our strengths and our limitations and everything in between, because if we don't, we're only telling half the story, right? And so it's such an interesting exercise. Of course, I'm now used to it. It's second nature for me to be able to say, I brag that I have great energy. I brag that I've built a business that I love. I brag that I love to learn and grow as a coach. I brag that I'm heading to Costa Rica next week for 10 days. I brag that every July I take a sabbatical. And it's so interesting, Sarah, to watch women go from, I can't even think of 2 things to say about myself that are good, to once they start going, and especially when this is in a group setting, and they feel that permission, that good response, that, oh, girl, get it kind of energy, that then they don't want to stop, because we've given them a taste of their power. And I think your strengths, understanding what they are, and telling better stories about yourself while also being honest, that's where your power can come from.
I love it. I'd never thought about it. I could imagine the energy in that room when you do that exercise must just go off the charts once people get in the groove.
It's off the charts, and women get to see themselves in other women. So the exercise is so much bigger than the individual, because when you see a woman talking well about herself, oh boy, does that energy catch on fire. It gives permission and a roadmap for other women to do the same. And sometimes that's just all we need. It's lovely. It's lovely.
See how beautiful it is to see someone feeling positive and expressing that.
Yes.
Instead of going, well, I'm just kind of.
Yeah. How often do we open a conversation and we're like, oh, well, I'm doing okay. Like, why not say, oh my gosh, can I share something exciting that just happened with you? Oh, I'd love to share this thing. I'm really proud of myself. And that's back to, what do I think? Well, I want to be a person who's honest, right? But also want to be a person who's bringing something interesting to the table. That's interesting. It's exciting, and it's unusual, but it shouldn't be.
I would say it is unusual. I'm reflecting back on conversations I've had in the last month and a half, 2 months, specifically with women. And I don't know that I've heard that. I've heard, I want to share something that's happened with someone we know in common, like a good news about somebody else, but not about themselves.
Yeah.
That's seen as whatever, too focused on them.
That's right.
But I like the way you did it. I'm thinking that's good.
Yeah. More of that, please.
Please, more of that. Yeah. Okay. So we talked a little bit about the pressure of kind of needing to prove worth or demonstrate our worth. Can you give 1 or 2 practical steps that you typically advise your clients on, like the first baby steps of breaking away from that?
Of proving yourself. Yeah, back to that initial question that I shared. When we focus on trying to please other people and look good, which, by the way, that's perfectionism. We often think perfectionism is being really organized and crossing our T's and dotting our I's. But perfectionism at its root is about trying to earn the approval of somebody else. And that is, what will they think? Oh, what will they think that I didn't bake the cookies from scratch? What will they think that I just shared this idea? And why did I say it that way? And God, I wish I would have said it this way. And oh my gosh, all the minutia that happens in our head. So if we're overly focused on what will they think, which is all about proving our worth, then the fundamental question to that, the antidote to that, is what do I think? So just start practicing. What do I think about the way I'm showing up? What do I think about myself? And you'll get some really great intel. And what I will also add is some of the pushback there is, well, if I knew what I thought, I wouldn't be stuck in the first place, or I wouldn't be worried in the first place. And that's where some kind of reflective practice on a consistent basis is really important. Meditation, journaling, movement, art, could be anything, but something that gives you a space to get quiet and just think about, who am I? How am I moving in the world? Do I like who I'm being? If you can come back to that, then at some point you're going to get a clear answer to, what do I think about how I showed up, or what do I think about this next decision? And oftentimes a lack of an answer can be just as helpful as an answer, right? It doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. It just means, oh yeah, I don't know yet. Great. So my job is to just keep doing the next right thing, whatever that is, cleaning the dishes, taking my next call, taking the kids to school, and continuing to do the practices that reflect on myself, because that next idea will appear, or that next answer that you're looking for. So in short, really noticing where what will they think, or what do they think, shows up, and instead asking, what do I think? And this is an interesting answer. I would also say in this moment, getting comfortable saying, I don't know. I think it's a really powerful phrase in an age where we often think we have to have the answers and we have to have them quickly. Just being able to say, I don't know, with curiosity, great question, right? If that's in a meeting at work, I hadn't thought about it that way. Tell me about what you're thinking, or give me a couple days. I'm going to think about this some more and I'm going to get back to you. And so that's about being honest. That's about having the vulnerability to trust that your response is enough in that moment, rather than trying to over-explain and over-impress when you really don't know. And some of the best leaders I've coached use that phrase a lot. It's a great example of humility. A great leader isn't someone who has all the answers, right? A great leader is somebody who can address change, who can navigate that uncertainty with a degree of courage and I think providing a North Star for what is to come. So it doesn't mean we just say, I don't know, carelessly, but when it's true, just practice saying it and see how it feels.
And it opens it up for other people to be able to say, okay, I'm going to think more about it also.
That's exactly right.
It creates that space that you were talking about when we don't know, we just need some space to journal or whatever, until we can start hearing our own self and not what everybody else says. Would you agree?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. I loved what you said, but I'm going to practice that more reflexively. What do I think? What do I think? I'm not going to say it out loud all the time, but when someone says, I think this, I'm going to go, what do I think? What do I think? Because not always it's a discussion. It's just someone will remark it and I'm thinking, but what do I think? Because sometimes I don't know, or I choose not to share. That's another, I know, but what's the point of sharing, because this is not that kind of a relationship. But yeah, that's really powerful. That and the giving yourself space. So you offer a complimentary coaching consultation. Will you share about that with us?
Oh, yes. Oh my gosh, there's nothing, aside from being on stage, there's nothing I love more than a one-on-one coaching session, which is the heart of my business. I don't do any group work. Yeah, it's 45 minutes where we're gonna get into it. My coaching style is fun, intuitive, and deep. So we go right there. And it's really talking about, yeah, what is working? What isn't working? It's a space to get honest, maybe for the first time in some ways that you haven't. The idea is to arm someone with some very strategic insight, whether that's tangibly, tactically a next step that they can take or something they can tweak with their mindset that they can start using to see some change in their life. I believe I've currently got a few spots open for the end of June and then into August. And it's just a way to support women, have some great conversations, expose them to coaching. I'm always so grateful because the women who schedule these are the women who are doing the work. So while I'm facilitating the session, it's also very inspiring to me. And yeah, it would be an honor to share that space with anyone that it's resonating with.
Okay, and we'll make sure that that is in our show notes so folks know. The other thing that you offer are your download of your 10 key questions worksheet. And those are great questions. I just want to say I downloaded myself to check them out. So how do folks get those, Sarah?
Yeah, you can go to the website, moresoulsessions.com. I'm sure you guys will put a link and download that. They're really interesting questions because some of them seem quite obvious, and then when you really sit to think about them, they open up some ideas and questions that I think are worth spending the time to reflect on. And then the cool thing about that is if you download it, it'll give you access to a blog I've written for over a decade. Women love it. Where we're sharing examples and stories of women who are full of themselves and what that looks like, tips to become more full of yourself, personal stories of how I'm doing that and also failing miserably and the lessons I'm learning along the way. So that will be another free resource as well that people could take advantage of.
We need more examples. We can't be walking by ourselves and wondering, especially when there's great examples around us. If we just sign up and get the 10 questions, then we can check out the blog as well. But I mean, I'm a big fan of making sure you're around other people who are doing the work you want to do and aspire to do, so you can be more, as you say there, full of yourself, herself.
Yeah, amen. I've been doing this one-on-one work for such a long time, and there's a calling inside of me for this to be a movement. And I'm a part of that, but it's so much bigger than me. So I put together what I'm calling a board of directors, just a group of women that I deeply admire and have been walking with for a while, just to start looking at what does that look like to turn up the heat on full of herself and bringing this message to more women. So it's an exciting, also a little bit of a eek, time for me too. So yeah, I feel deeply moved by the reaction of women to the message, to the experiences in the pump up session. And so it'd be interesting to see, what comes of these next few steps we're going to take.
I'm excited. Keep me posted. I will say, from the variety of people that I interview, and they come from all different backgrounds, but they're all in the heart space of contributing. Let me just say that they're very different from one another. But that motivation and that elevation, to bring the energy out and broader, is being shared more and more. And so right on for you, because you're on the right path.
Thanks, Sarah. I appreciate that.
It just feels like the timing's right,
Stay tuned.
Ooh, I just got the chills about that one. Okay, so I want to leave you with the last word for the podcast. I like our guests to have the final words of encouragement or thoughts.
Oh, okay. Oh, it has to be this quote, which is so much more than a quote. It's a way of being. It's by Marianne Williamson, and it says, "Our deepest fear isn't that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure."
Okay, No Labels, No Limits podcast listeners, there you have it. Nothing to add. Can't top Marianne Williamson. So I want to again thank Sarah Moore for being on the podcast. Check out the show notes so you can get connected up with her. Take the offer of her pressure-free success session, either in the end of June or when she's back in August. And we'll see you next week on the podcast.
You've been listening to the No Labels, No Limits podcast with best-selling author, change agent, and strategic business coach, Sarah Box. You can grab the show notes and find out how to work with Sarah at sarahbox.com/No Labels, No Limits podcast. We'd love this podcast to reach as many people as possible. Please remember to rate, leave a 5-star review, and share the podcast with someone you think would get value from this conversation. Till next time, keep taking those daily action steps to align your purpose to your principles and achieve your goals in business and life.